You're listening to Contesting Wrestling Premium. Thank you, premium listeners, for continuing to support Contesting Wrestling on Patreon. This week, we had a good time. It's me and Ben, and we have a guest, which I'll get to in a few seconds. But we decided just to watch something fun and have some fun. Ben, what do you got? Please introduce our guest.
Yes, so we're very happy to have our dear friend, veteran wrestling podcaster, wrestling photographer, among many other talents, Matt Josephson. Welcome back to the Contesting Wrestling Podcast.
Top of the hour, coming at you.
Indeed.
That it is, Matt. That it is. Cool.
So today I wanted to watch something that, so the WWE Network will be no more in the United States in its current fashion at the end of the month. By the time this comes out, actually, it will already have happened. Peacock will have absorbed it. And it'll be a little while before, that's how Peacocks, right. That's how they eat, I suppose. And it's going to take a while for all the stuff that's on the network to go back on to be loaded onto Peacock. And some of it might not ever make it. We don't really know at this point. So I wanted to watch something that I think they'll probably take a while to get around to, which is one of these random MSG house shows that they have under Old School on the network. So I wanted to do this house show from November 30th, 1991 at Madison Square Garden. And I wanted to have Matt along for this one because it really is a very, though it was sort of just an untelevised or mostly untelevised house show, it has a special place in wrestling history as the first meeting, or one of the first meetings, between Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair after Ric Flair had jumped from WCW to WWF. So, eminent Hulk Hogan scholar Matt Josephson, I thought, was an appropriate person to have on for this one. And
sure.
and I think, you know, assure the listeners that while Matt is a lifelong Hulk Hogan fan, he is a fan of the character more so than the man. Is that fair?
The one with the giant penis, right?
The 10-inch penis of Hulk Hogan.
There you go. Not of Terry Bollea.
Right.
Yeah. Right. You know, Hogan's back in the wrestling news because he's going to be one of the hosts for WrestleMania along with Titus O'Neil. How do you feel about that, Matt?
I mean, I get it. They're in Florida. Like, it's the clear. He's probably at least the biggest Florida wrestler in history.
Yeah, I guess. You know?
And there's a lot of them too.
Yeah. And, you know, WWE, we know WrestleMania is a mainstream grab. They try to get as many eyeballs on the product as possible. So, you know, there's that chance that people who normally wouldn't watch WrestleMania go, oh, Hulk Hogan's hosting, I'll watch it.
Yeah, at this point, the strategy is to get them to watch it on Peacock. So it's the thing that they're going to advertise to people who bought Peacock subscriptions to watch all of their favorite, like, NBC properties, and then they see somebody they recognize in Hulk Hogan. The problem with the lasting visage of Hulk Hogan is that, like, it's been a long okay, controversy aside, it's been a long time since he's had any real glory days, you know? Yeah.
I mean, to your point about the Peacock viewers, you know, these might be people who saw Saturday night's main event on NBC back in the day.
Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live when him and Mr. T hosted.
Yeah, sure. So I guess Peacock probably has an older audience, I would guess, than some streaming services.
That could be true.
Like me, I'm pretty old now.
Yeah, I Peacock and Paramount Plus, you know.
Yeah.
I have Paramount Plus to watch Star Trek. I've been watching through all of the Star Trek in, like, chronological order, so I started with Enterprise. Mm-hmm. I kind of enjoyed Enterprise.
You know, I never finished Enterprise, but I've been meaning to watch the last season of it. I'm actually watching Deep Space Nine all the way through right now.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Deep Space Nine. Enterprise does kind of fall apart a bit in the fourth season. They, like, changed writers, but I pretty much enjoyed it all the way through. The Big Show guest stars in season 4.
Hey.
Oh wow.
I think he's the only wrestler who's ever done Star Trek, from what I
No,
remember.
The Rock was in Voyager.
Oh, The Rock was in Voyager. Oh,
Yeah.
man, I'm looking
That's
forward
awesome.
to that, too.
And that's just off the top of my head.
Gotcha. Yeah, there may be more. I watched the first 2 seasons of Discovery, which happened, like, first there's The Cage, that original pilot with Captain Pike, and then Discovery, the first 2 seasons, and then original series. So I'm in original series now, which I'm also enjoying more than I expected to.
Should we buy Star Trek uniforms at some point and just wear them for the hell of it one day?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
What color would you rock?
I
feel
gotta
like
go. Yeah,
I feel like me being an IT guy, it would probably be yellow or gold. Yeah.
I gotta go with the red. I mean, I'm just like a Picard Riker guy for life, you know. So.
Okay.
I'm down with that for sure.
Yeah, they came out with those like pretty nifty sweatshirts a little while ago.
Yeah, I'm not sure which uniform I would want. Because there's a lot to choose from.
Yeah, I could rock, some of those '60s ones actually are pretty cool. Like the doctor shirt that McCoy has, that's sort of like wavy.
Yeah.
With the weird angles on it.
But
in any case,
we'll have to do a whole recording about Star Trek one of these days. That'll be a bonus feature.
Well, if you just watch the entire series, I'm sure you're equipped to.
Well, for wrestling's sake, we could watch like the episode with the Big Show and the episode with The Rock.
Yeah, I guess.
Make it so.
All right.
Yeah.
We will. We certainly will. That sounds good. That's something that Evan would be interested in doing as well.
All right.
That's probably true.
I'm on board.
All right. So, speaking of the early 90s, which is when I started watching Next Generation as a kid, sometime in there, we have this house show at Madison Square Garden that happened in between Survivor Series 91, which is when Undertaker beat Hogan for the title, and Tuesday in Texas, which is where Hogan won it back. This is on Friday night. Survivor Series was Thanksgiving Eve, and this was a couple nights later. Now, as we've talked about before, because we did a previous house show, at this time, and I guess it's always been the case, basically, that the WWF had 2 touring units, 2 touring groups.
I think occasionally they
Sometimes
had 3.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was a C show.
Got you. So
Well, there's a great website called just the history of the WWF.com that has a complete as as possible house show results for every single year. And if you get into the late 80s, sometimes they do 3 full shows and then have a 4th show that's just a few matches that's probably like in association with something else. They were touring a lot at the time.
So the house show we did from 88 was one of the rare occurrences in which Hogan was not champion. Savage was champion. And on that one, Savage was on the A show at the Garden and Hogan was on the B show, which was quite rare. This time, Hogan is also not the champion, and yet he is on the A show at the Garden. The other show that happened that night was in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. The Undertaker was the champion, defending against the British Bulldog. There's like a 3-minute clip from that match on the network, which I think we all watched.
Yeah, and it's funny because it shows up under Madison Square Garden. I guess because it was the same day.
Yeah, it shows up under the date. And then there's another date there.
The network has never been very well organized.
No.
Oh, just wait for Peacock.
I was hoping it might be better, but I don't know about that.
No such luck.
The little bit of the match with Undertaker and Bulldog is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like awesome delayed vertical suplex from Bulldog, absolutely perfect with Undertaker's feet right up there in the air. Bulldog hits him with the power slam, but then Paul Bearer gets on the apron. He goes after him. Undertaker clocks him with the urn, and then is very careful to leave the ring to pick up the urn and put it on the apron.
Yeah.
I don't know if he did that because he wanted to make sure Paul Bearer could find it afterward. It was really, I know that it was really strange though.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
he just,
Well,
maybe
I
he just
think selling the selling The Undertaker was the idea that the urn is his power. His first
Right, so maybe
priority
just
is making sure
kayfabe
the
in there.
urn is safe.
Yeah.
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 Even more so in like early Undertaker like this.
Yeah, he still got the pin. We don't get to see his entrance with the title, but we get to see him leave with Paul Bearer holding the title aloft.
Yeah.
I did always love at Tuesday in Texas. He's just dragging the title, like it's just in his hand, dragging along like he doesn't even care. It's like, I'm the champion now, whatever.
Yeah. And for different reasons than Diesel would do later on.
Right.
It wasn't just how cool
No, it's
he
because
was.
The Undertaker is an actual zombie.
So also on that card was the Legion of Doom, who were the tag champions at the time. I think that was the reign where there was a phantom change at the end. They never actually lost it to Money Incorporated.
Yeah, that was always so strange to me because I was a kid when that happened, and I couldn't make heads or tails of that.
For us, for Doc and I, this is pretty much a little bit before we started watching. Like just about a year before I started watching.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like I'm fascinated by this particular period in WWF because it like feels like the before times, but the just before times.
It's funny because that's always how I felt about like WrestleMania, like 3, 4, 5, and 6. Like it seemed like a completely different world, but in reality, it was like maybe a couple of years before.
I think we talked about this a bit when you were on before and how like the production style also changed dramatically right around this time.
I think that's why it's because like if you look at WrestleMania 1 and WrestleMania 6 side by side, they look like completely different companies. And I think that just contributed to that leap of difference there.
Vince was always trying to get, better and new production value. Always better lights, always better cameras, always more, sophisticated and modern techniques. Continues to this day. I don't particularly like a lot of the way that Raw is shot, but it's definitely using modern, contemporary techniques, using the most state-of-the-art equipment and lights that they could possibly find.
Can somebody explain to me what the 8K entrances are?
Oh, the weird hologram things.
Well, no, they shoot the entrances a certain way now, and they say it's supposedly 8K, which it just looks like they have the aperture really, really high, so that everything else is blurry except the wrestler.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't explain it any more than that.
Okay.
One other last thing about the Hamilton, Ontario show. I noticed that Chris Chavis has a match against Ted DiBiase before he was Tatanka. Wow. I guess they were just trying him out at that point.
That was because he was Tatanka shortly after that.
Very shortly. Yeah, this is a really cool transitional point in the WWF. This is the end of the last full Hogan year.
Yeah.
He would hang on till WrestleMania, and then he was gone pretty much until the next WrestleMania. So yeah, they were trying to figure out what was going to come next at this point.
Yeah.
And a lot of transitional stuff with like Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty that we'll get into a little bit later.
Oh yeah.
But
for sure.
So yeah, our announcers are Vince McMahon, Bobby Heenan, and Lord Alfred Hayes, who's like unusually more toward the babyface side.
I think he didn't want to step on Bobby Heenan. He could always go wherever he was needed in that dynamic.
He mostly portrayed on Tuesday Night Titans, he was a babyface.
Right.
Like he would advocate for the heels, but then when he was actually interacting with them on the set, they would get into it usually. Piper slapped him, and that was this big oh my god moment.
Yeah.
Roddy Piper slapped old Alfred Hayes.
That was earlier on, but around this time, if you watch the Coliseum videos, sometimes he's pretty damn heelish on commentary.
Is it him and Sean Mooney on those?
Yes.
That's
when
why.
He's with Mooney.
Yeah, Mooney was white meat babyface commentator.
Yeah. So
that's what I mean when I say Al Hayes managed to do whatever was needed of him at the time. He was very rarely straight up babyface, but he could if he needed to. And
he's like Batman.
He kind of He specifically tried to portray someone who wanted to portray being a good person, but was a little out of touch and old-fashioned and selfish and kind of a liar, but he doesn't think that you think he's a liar. It's a subtle confidence when he says, like when he says when he lies about his age, which he does a lot whenever he's on commentary.
Yeah. I wasn't
Like,
alive in
confident.
53. Okay,
Right.
I was a small child in 53. All right, so our first match is El Matador Tito Santana against Kato of the Orient Express. Kato, not Kato.
Yeah. What did you guys think of this rebranding of Tito Santana that happened around this time?
I'm ambivalent about it. I am, because on the one hand, it's like it feels a little bit racist.
It feels a lot bit racist. It feels like Vince McMahon went, he needs to be more Mexican, damn it.
Right.
And Bobby Heenan's color on this is just constant. Tito Santana whips off his cape and he goes, "Oh, it's like iridescent guacamole."
Oh man!
And that's the problem when you're trying to be like racist without being too over the top about it, but actually the only thing you know about another culture is the food that you've heard of.
Yeah.
Which it really comes off as horribly ignorant.
At the same time, as a little kid, not that I was really all about bullfighting, but like the gimmick
you were in the bullfighting club then?
Yeah, the gimmick
like
was
the
over with
Center
me
down
as
on
a kid.
Avenue C and 14th Street or 23rd Street. What is it? They had the bullfighting classes.
Oh,
right?
did they?
Down on the river.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, they're fond memories of my childhood, but
Just
I don't
sticking it
know.
Right between the eyes.
Yeah, no, it was probably a bad idea. But everybody had to have another job at the time. So,
right.
What else was he going to be?
Yeah.
At least they
Bret
didn't
Hart
actually
was a
make
hitman,
him
for God's sake.
right.
He killed people for money.
At least they didn't actually make him like working at a Mexican restaurant or something.
I suppose.
But
I don't know. I always got when Jesse Ventura would be racist towards Tito. I always got the sense that it was in good fun with Bobby Heenan, and I'm a big fan of Bobby Heenan. I never quite got that. It felt like forced, and like Heenan would rather be doing something else. And like Tito he did the whole El Matador gimmick, but he never needed to be El Matador. He could just be Tito Santana. Everybody loved Tito Santana. Why does he have to dress all up like this?
And he was already like
he was
already like an institution by then, yeah.
Yeah, he had been in the WWF for years and years. It would be one thing if he was actually a bullfighter, then sure. But he wasn't actually a bullfighter. He was just a wrestler.
Well, anyway, he did have a cooler name for his finisher than I think he had previously. I don't know if
the El Paso de la Muerte.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. And that is a bullfighting term, I think. That's when you kill the bull, I think. So,
And I correct me if I'm wrong, but was it Bobby Heenan referring to it as like the flying burrito, where that actually became what they refer to the flying forearm as now?
I think that was Ventura.
Okay.
I think Ventura
Heenan, started to say it at this time and then didn't say it with confidence.
He said
Ventura
flying.
Would always say it.
He would change it up. Like he would say like the flying salsa. Like...
This time Heenan said the flying peso salsa.
Okay.
Which I think was a riff specifically on the Paso de la Muerte name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when Alfred corrects him, right. When Alfred corrects him, he's like, "Thank you, Mr. French."
Yeah. Well, that's why Al Hayes had to be a babyface here, so he could play off a Heenan.
Right. So anyway, Santana wins the match with that move. I wanted to say about Kato, Paul Diamond just keeps showing up in these episodes. Paul Diamond is always around in some guise. Matt, did you know that back in Texas, like in his early part of his career, Shawn Michaels and Paul Diamond were in a tag team?
I had no idea.
Yeah, they were. I think it was like the All-American Boys. And so then when Shawn was down in TWA, with his students, Paul Diamond came down there and they like revisited their history and had a whole feud where Shawn had a match coming out of retirement before he came back in WWF.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey.
You know?
we discovered that like watching fucking Bryan Danielson stuff from TWA for one.
Okay, so
Yeah,
there's
just a few
actual
weeks ago.
there's actual archival evidence of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there is. So the match itself was fine. It was an opener. It was good. You know, these guys knew what they were doing. Tito really knew what he was doing. You know, they wrestle for 10 minutes and Tito wins. Not much really to say about it. It was a traditional opening match for the WWF at the time, and that it was exciting enough, but they didn't really do anything.
Tito's career is very upsetting to me just because like he was there for so long and he stuck by the company forever, and his legacy was he was the Intercontinental Champion in like 1984, and anytime he wrestled they'd go, hey, former Intercontinental Champion, and then he would always lose. Like I was kind of shocked.
They'd use him to put people over, you know, like I think he like his last really big thing was losing the finals of the Intercontinental title tournament to Mr. Perfect after Ultimate Warrior gave up the title. And then he was like, I remember him losing a King of the Ring qualifier to Razor Ramon.
Yeah.
In 93, I think. He
was a bathroom break at WrestleMania 7. He lost to the Mountie in like a minute and a half.
He lost to Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 8.
Yeah.
He, you know, for a time, he had, I don't know who does now because they've had so many more WrestleManias, but for a long time, he had the worst record in WrestleMania history. I forget if he ever got a win, but it was something like either 1-7 or 0-7. Like, he would just lose every single year. He'd get booked every year because people liked Tito and they were using him. But he would, like, lose every year. He'd put somebody over, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't until I watched some of the older Coliseum tapes from the 80s, like the best of the WWF, and saw, like, his matches with Magnificent Morocco, that I realized how good he actually was.
Yeah. And Morocco's one of my favorites.
Most of this, like, late 80s, early 90s era was really, like, latter-day Tito. Not that he stopped wrestling. He retired right before COVID. He was still doing indies in the area.
Wow.
I know a guy who got to wrestle, you know, in a tag team with him. And I'm like, man, Tito still wrestles? And he said, yeah, he don't bump anymore, but he wrestles. I'm like, good for Tito.
Fair
I
enough.
want to meet Tito Santana.
Yeah, I think he'd be cool. So the next match we get is this weird match between the Berserker and Kerry Von Erich, the Texas Tornado.
Wait, let me just tell you what my notes for this match is.
Please,
I wrote Texas Tornado versus John Nord. What the fuck?
Yeah, even Vince at the end is like, this is one of the strangest WWF matches that's ever happened. He says it's one of the strangest matches to ever happen in Madison Square Garden. And it is. What the fuck? So Berserker comes out. Texas Tornado comes out. Kerry had been wrestling with an artificial foot for quite a while at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
he was definitely limping on his way to the ring.
He was never in WWF with his biological foot, as far as I know.
Oh, no.
Right.
Not at all.
Yeah. No, he had it already in like 87, 88 in World Class.
Yeah. I think the accident was in 86 even.
Yeah. So
he did not look well. He really did not look well.
Yeah.
And he was definitely a man who had done too many drugs at this point, and like he still had that charisma that he always had, but something
his body
really
looked
wasn't
good.
there.
Yeah. His body always
he looked
good.
like he was on steroids, sure.
Well, yeah,
but like he didn't look like he used to, that's for sure. And it's not like he was an old guy. He was only like 30 at this point.
His offense was all punching. Yeah. And then Berserker is fucking awesome.
I loved him.
His attack on Kerry at the very beginning of the match is like explosive and cool, and he works the crowd really well. He takes that absolutely beautiful back body drop over the top rope where he does like a full cartwheel.
He had talent, that guy.
Big time.
He was 31 at this point. He had
Jeez.
He had turned 31 in February. So he was a young guy. He did not look it.
Ironically, the Berserker's finishing move in most of his time in WWF was just that he would throw his opponent out of the ring and get the count out.
And win by count out, yeah.
Yeah, but this time he loses by count out.
Was it supposed to be like poetic
no.
justice or something?
I don't know. I think it was just, I think it's hard to say how the booking worked here. Like they wanted Kerry to win, obviously. But I guess they didn't really want to put him over Berserker because they didn't know how long he'd be there. So they just had him win by count out.
Who knows? The whole thing was only about 2 minutes long. It got them both out there in front of the people. Who knows what was going on?
Yeah.
It could have been nothing. That could have been what they were going for. Let's have a weird schmaz that ends inconclusively between matches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bathroom break.
And with WWF house shows, by and large, the faces go over. So
yeah, it's usually a face fest.
Yeah, I think there's only one heel that goes over.
That's good
in this whole show. Yeah, we'll get to that. So yeah, fucking weird match. The weird part was like towards the end, it just like seemed like Berserker was determined to be counted out, or he kept getting knocked out of the ring. He'd come back in, get knocked out of the ring almost immediately again, and then eventually he just didn't get back in. It was really weird.
It was his tribute. It was his continuing tribute to Bruiser Brody. The match wasn't going how he wanted, so he just left.
Well, there was like the stairs shots too. He gave Kerry a stairs shot, and then he got slammed to the stairs. And by then, somehow the referee had reached 10 much more quickly than usual.
Maybe it was the ref. The one
Maybe
ref, like the kind of older fat guy. Like, he wasn't very good. He wasn't moving very well. He was missing stuff. Like, I noticed he was dragging it down a bit.
If you watch a lot of the older stuff on the network, and they just have, like, there wasn't seemingly like a set roster of refs, it would just kind of be whoever was in that city. They would rag on the refs really bad if they started messing up. Like, the commentators would just completely turn them, like throw them under the bus and be
Vince
like, this official's terrible.
Vince was definitely calling attention to his weight. To the referee's weight throughout the show.
Sure.
It's so
the
weird to
phrase
listen to Vince
rotund
McMahon.
was used a few times.
It's weird to listen to Vince McMahon knowing who he is now after all these years of just him being exposed for like the Vince McMahon that we know, hearing him back then and just knowing that this like werewolf of a monster is behind this man. You just know, like,
yeah, it's also kind of fun to hear Vince being a little bit looser. Like in later years, even like only a couple of years after this, I think he really started to refine his formula for announcing and how he wanted to put each thing over and how he wanted everything to be represented. Whereas this time he's playing it a little bit more fast and loose.
Yeah, I also think he's sitting there with like Bobby Heenan, and Bobby Heenan's not gonna like do anything by like a strict code. Bobby Heenan's gonna Bobby Heenan.
As much as Vince was always an announcer, he tried very hard not to ever really be the complete lead announcer. He would have Gorilla Monsoon there and Bobby Heenan there to do the heavy lifting, and he'd just be the narrator on top of all of it sometimes. But around now, he was starting more to be the lead announcer, as he would be for the next few years. Gorilla was starting to wind it down, and Bobby Heenan, as it turns out, was not going to be in the WWF for more than another couple of years, and Vince was just kind of telling the stories himself, especially as after this, as Hogan wound down and left. Vince took it more upon himself directly to put everyone else over because he didn't have his guy anymore.
Yeah.
And that's where, that's why Michael Cole has lasted for so long, because that's what he does, and that's what he's always tried to do, is be more or less neutral, except for those couple of years or whatever it was that they had him be straight heel, which was terrible. But just, be neutral and be shouting at you what's going on at all times, in case you're missing it, which was Vince's strategy.
Right. If only there was something going on ever nowadays.
Yeah. If only there was something going on. Right.
So our next match is Virgil against Skinner, who I fucking love.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, what's your opinion of Skinner? Because I think Skinner's great.
Skinner's amazing.
Skinner looks like he would have a make Yeah, he looks like he would have a "Make America Great Again" hat today if he was around.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Probably.
but I mean,
Yeah.
the character, he just like leans into that character so hard, like just from like threatening to throw tobacco juice on the crowd at
Amazing.
the beginning. Yeah, you can't be that kind of like super grimy sort of character anymore.
I wish they
know.
would have done. They would have just done something where they actually showed him skin like some kind of like fake animal that they made for the because he's like one of the only wrestlers that had like the gimmick that we don't okay, we see him in the swamp, we see he's got like alligator claws like around his neck, we never actually see him skin anything.
That's true.
Right.
That would be if he like threatened to skin his opponent, at least maybe he got like a little bit.
Right. I don't know, something. But what a great, I thought he had a great look. And then the finisher, the reverse DDT, like
Yes, the
Yeah,
swamp
the
drop.
slop drop, man.
Yeah.
Or
I
the
don't
gator drop at this point. It was
Whatever
the
they
gator
call
drop.
it.
Yeah.
did anyone else do that in WWF prior to that?
Not that I know.
That I
of.
Like that should have been a big deal. Like they could have
It was
like
a good move.
yeah. But can we agree?
They gave
at
it to
least-
Henry Godwin later, and he beat a couple people with it.
Yeah. Can we agree? Virgil's entrance music is pretty lit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pumps you up. Gets
Yeah.
the crowd
Definitely.
going.
Definitely. That's pretty much all that's lit about Virgil, unfortunately.
Virgil was still kind of over from his feud with the $1 Million Man. He managed to ride that for about 2 years or so.
He did.
And he never. Yeah, no. If you go back and watch, he's over when he comes out.
Yeah.
He's over when he comes out to face Yokozuna at the Survivor Series in '92. And then things go poorly for him. But, I was never a fan of Virgil, but I gotta appreciate Virgil. He managed to, for the most of his career, like work with the top guys wherever he went without having a whole lot of matches, really. He's just kind of standing there and getting the money that comes with being in that spot. And, good for him.
And
in
as he
latter-day
does at the
WCW.
wrestling conventions, stand there and get whatever money comes to that spot.
Right. In latter day WCW, like when they were reaching the tail end of the NWO, so like early on in the NWO thing, they brought him in pretty early, but he never wrestled. He would occasionally get a few jabs in here and there, but he never wrestled. He just stood
When he was
around with some
Vincent.
sunglasses, right, when he was
Yes,
Vincent. Much later on, he would wrestle, and you could tell that they told him he had to wrestle with little notice, because for the first time in years, he takes his shirt off and he's all hairy. And like, nothing against if you're hairy, I'm hairy, but very few guys voluntarily put their hairy torsos on national television. He certainly didn't
Especially
when he knew
then.
he was wrestling. Yeah. So when
Yeah.
it came time, he's like, I don't do anything but curls anymore. So I look good in tight T-shirts. And yeah, he embarrassed himself a few times, but he stuck around.
So this match, I thought he did his job pretty well as the babyface. Skinner did such an incredible job as a heel that I enjoyed the match altogether. Finally, at the end, Virgil beats him with a sunset flip. Very well executed sunset flip.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite part is Heenan's call. He hooked his pockets. Which you could do with a sunset flip.
Yeah.
You can. That's,
He
Hands on the pockets.
always was there with and I think he hooked the trunks. Yeah, he pulled a head full of hair, cheap shot.
Yeah,
Everything was a
right.
cheap shot.
Yeah. The faces could never actually win on their own merits.
Vince always thought a 1 count was a 2 count and a 2 count was a victory.
my
Yeah,
God.
so many, he got him. No.
It was even worse with that In Your House we watched last week, actually. Every fucking 2 count. He thought he had him.
On a few
He'd go back
episodes
and
of
forth a
Nitro,
couple of times. He'd be like, oh, he's not going to get him. Oh, he got him. No, he didn't.
You'll notice on a few episodes of Nitro and a couple of WCW pay-per-views, Bobby Heenan does that, and he does it for every single 2 count. And if you're a big enough wrestling fan, you know he's just making fun of Vince.
Yeah.
For every 2 count, he's like, he got him. Oh, no, I guess not. It's like, yeah, we know, buddy. But yeah, they had a fine, quick match. Virgil knew how to do his thing. It didn't go too long. And Virgil won because the babyface is over on the house shows, right?
Yeah, I guess.
I think there were 3 heel wins on this show, if I'm not mistaken.
Going down the list.
Oh no, actually 2. There were
Okay.
2.
right.
Because the next match was almost a heel win.
Yes.
The real world champion, Ric Flair, still holding the big gold belt that he had taken from WCW.
No, at this point it was the tag team belt.
Oh, it was the tag team belt.
They had
Yeah,
they
you
had
can see it a
gotten
little bit.
Yeah, there's some point where they
I
just
thought it looked weird, yeah.
There was some point where they just completely missed putting the black dot over it, so you just see it's a tag team belt.
Oh, okay.
So what blew my mind about this is we just finished our 3rd match and they announced the main event.
So as we've seen with the other house shows we've done, that was the rule for WWF at the time. For like years, they would put the feature match in the middle, and then they'd have like another main event at the end.
I wonder why. And I feel like WWF did this for a few years, where they would have like the championship match was always in the middle of the show.
I think there's a couple reasons for it. One is if it was a championship match or a big main event, that it like without maybe a time limit or something like that, they wanted to make sure it could go the whole way. Whereas the match that they actually put on at the end might like be ended earlier for curfew reasons or something like that.
That's one of the things why they did it in the 70s and early 80s.
Or did they want to make sure like the kids could see Hulk Hogan before like 9 o'clock at night?
That might be the case.
I kind of was thinking. I was kind of thinking there was a chance that Hogan went to Vince and went, "Yo, Vince, I'll do the show, but my favorite restaurant in New York closes at 10:30, and I want to make sure I get dinner reservations there. So like, put me on 3rd, and I'm out."
So they would do it before intermission often, also so that they could shoot an angle that would go until the next house show. And traditionally, they would shoot an angle, and then between then and the end of the show, they'd put tickets on sale for the next house show.
Yeah.
And they would do this. They did this in the 70s. They did this for Bruno. They did this for Bob Backlund. And they did it for Hogan, too. It started to go out of fashion a little bit after this. In a case like this, they do such a weird, screwy finish. It also takes the pressure off of you to have a super satisfying finish at the end of your title match.
Which they usually weren't going to do in a house show.
Or something, Unless Bruno's just beating the guy or Hogan's just, dropping the leg on Killer Khan or whatever. They're going to do something here.
Yeah.
Not that they didn't have a weird finish to finish the show, but, that's a whole other
It's
story.
so weird watching the way the announcers talk about Hogan from now, looking back, where they're just like, he's the epitome of everything that is fine and pure.
He's the best athlete.
Yes,
He's the best
epitome
athlete
of
in
physical
the world.
excellence.
Yeah.
Especially Alfred putting him over as this like really good, wholesome dude.
Yeah.
For some reason feels weird.
It was the whole character,
Especially since in this match, he fights dirty as fucking hell.
Hogan always fought dirty.
He did. Like Flair starts it here, but Hogan goes OD. At one point, they're just poking each other in the eye back and forth for like a full minute.
I really dug this match, by the way, because they just kind of went at each other.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about this match a little bit, because this was, and I had this thought when this match first started. I wish they did this same match in like a house show in like Georgia or something like that. I would just love to see the crowd reaction, not in New York, but in like a more like traditional Ric Flair territory, just to see how the crowd what kind of reception they would get.
Well, the weird thing is, so they have this match here where it's basically Flair selling for Hogan the whole time.
Right. Hogan. It's like Hogan
no sells, actually.
Everything. Yeah.
And Flair just bumps for him all over the place, and it's awesome. He does all his crazy.
I noticed
flipping
Flair
bumps in the corner and stuff.
Flair was having trouble doing his corner bump, and I'm wondering if that's because he was still adjusting to the WWF ring.
Could be
possible. Ring could have been a little taller than he's used to.
The funny thing is, we'll talk about the finish of this match and like how like they didn't really necessarily want to fully put either of them over. But by the time they got to the South, when Hogan went to WCW, they just put Hogan over Flair completely. And looking back on it, it's like that was such a victory for the WWF. To have their guy beat it was always Hogan or Flair. They never really settled it in WWF. WCW just basically took the L because they knew they could make a lot of money off of it for the next several years.
Oh, yeah.
But in the long run, it was the victory of New York over Charlotte or whatever.
Right. But I mean, like, I feel like that's it. Ironically, like Vince will usually do the same thing now. Like AJ Styles comes in, and he's the Southern boy, and he comes in and he beats John Cena clean in the middle of the ring at SummerSlam. Right.
Yeah, I mean, the conspiracist in me thinks that Vince actually sent like the storyline of the NWO is actually a shoot. And like Vince sent Hogan down there to destroy WCW slowly because he did.
Well, yeah,
him and Vince Russo.
It all just goes. Yeah. It all goes right. And he sent Vince Russo. Vince Russo's like, I need a lighter schedule, and Vince was like, well, you could just tell the people in WCW to give you a lot of money and a job, and they'll do it. And they did.
And he also sent Bret Hart to like ruin the finish of the Hogan Sting match, right?
Right. Oh my God, they sent Bret Hart. They sent. Oh, and it was the hottest thing ever.
That's perfectly in keeping with all of my other theories that I've expressed. It was
the hottest thing ever for the WWF, not for WCW. Somehow, Bret Hart going to WCW was the hottest angle possible for the WWF. Sometimes, in some periods of time, you just got it. And, like, for that period of time, they just had it. It was like 1987. They just had it, I enjoyed the show we watched, but they didn't have it in 1991. There was definitely
not
some
quite
missteps.
Yeah. But yeah, back to, like, Flair, he takes a suplex on the floor from Hogan. He really gets the shit beaten out of him in this match. But Mr. Perfect distracts the ref and helps Flair get the advantage. And eventually Flair hits Hogan with some kind of object that after he hits him, he has stored like directly in his ass crack.
Right. Like you just see this
right in his ass.
This brass knuck looking bulge, like almost cartoony.
But he gets the 3 count over Hogan.
Yes.
Then Tony Gurria and Dave Hebner come in and they reverse the decision. But everybody saw Flair pin Hulk Hogan for the 1, 2, 3.
Now here's what upset me about this. This is where I was like, wait a minute. Because I'm thinking, okay, this match feels like it's kind of like getting started. Like Hulk Hogan got the shine, like all throughout the first portion of the match. Ric Flair gets this one little piece of offense. And you think, okay, well, what are they gonna do? Restart the match now, and now we're gonna get like, Flair will do his thing and Hogan will make his comeback. No, that's it. That's the end of the match.
Yeah.
They reversed the decision, and it was like, this is it.
They pointed at Hogan. It was like, nope, DQ.
I think they were still thinking at this time that they might do this match for WrestleMania 8, so they didn't want to give away too much.
Yeah,
they were going to do it again at the next series of house shows. This is, as it was explained by Bruce Pritchard on his podcast and others, and the numbers are there to back this up. The first round of Hogan Flair house shows did well, but that wasn't all. They set up rematches like before intermission, right? They have the finish where Flair punches Hogan with the thing, and they have the reverse DQ. So then I don't know if they did it again at the Garden, but at the next round of house shows, they did Flair Hogan again, and it didn't draw that well. And they were like, okay, maybe we shouldn't do this for Mania. They needed a much bigger star for Hogan to face. Sid.
Well, I think part of it also was they knew Hogan was going to leave. They didn't want to, so they couldn't put him over Flair decisively because he was going to leave, and they needed Flair to be strong. Because he was going to be the guy on the house shows. They also, for the reasons that I was just talking about with comparatively to WCW, they didn't want Flair to be the victor in the feud with Hulk Hogan either. So I don't think there was really like a satisfying finish that they could do for Hogan Flair at Mania. Not like they had a satisfying finish with Sid and Hogan either.
No.
Right. But at least like... Well, I know it felt like we were gonna get. That felt like half of a match we got.
With this one.
This particular one.
Yeah. It did.
I enjoyed what we got, but yeah.
We got to see Hogan leg drop Flair. We got to see Flair put Hogan in the figure 4. So we kind of got like the greatest hits a little bit.
Yeah, we got a photo op is what we got.
Yeah. Hey.
But I did love at the end of the match though when Hogan sends the kid into the ring and then Hogan follows and he asks the kid to help him into the ring.
Yeah, that was
amazing.
Cool. That was a great touch. Absolutely.
This kid's gonna help 300-pound Hulk Hogan get in the ring.
And then Alfred just keeps going on about what a fantastic person Hulk Hogan is.
It's like they're in a cult and Hulk Hogan's the leader.
Yeah. I mean, Hulkamania, right?
Yeah.
Like they had their whole fucking religion.
Alfred had an incurable case of Hulkamania.
So
it was very pervasive.
So I guess they're coming back from intermission and they need a match that people don't really need to see. Because goddamn, if the Barbarian versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan is not the most basic bare bones pro wrestling match I have ever seen.
Yep.
By the way, I noted here they're talking about the next few matches and they mentioned Bret Hart. And Alfred Hayes says that Bret Hart has been 100% successful thus far. Of course he has. That's why he's the champion. Like,
like you either mean that in a limited way where it's obvious, or you mean it in a way where it's obviously false.
Yeah.
That like he's always, he's never lost a match.
He's
never
it was just a strange comment. He's been 100% successful so far. It's like, well, what would 90% success look like in this context?
I thought it was also interesting when they were talking about the later matches. They really put over the Big Boss Man IRS match as a big attraction.
Yeah. Well, Boss Man was way over, and IRS.
He was on his
upswing.
Deal
with that.
He was on his upswing at the time.
That might actually be the best match on this card.
That match was pretty fun.
It was good. Well, we'll get to it in a minute.
Yeah.
We'll get to it, yeah.
I don't know why this never dawned on me before, but I'm looking at the 2x4 that Hacksaw comes to the ring with, and I'm like, man, what a great prop, because the overhead on that had to be nothing.
Yeah,
right.
They probably made so much money selling toy 2x4s, the little foam ones. Like, and the real one, you go to like any hardware store, and it's probably like a couple bucks for something like that.
Yeah.
We need a stick. Someone get us a stick. I wonder how much the rubber ones in WCW cost.
It was actually funny. Quick aside. There was an episode of Nitro where Hacksaw ran into the ring and attacked somebody with it, and it was the foam one. It wasn't the real one. And it was like, why is he using the foam one as a weapon? Like,
I remember him having one that was obviously rubber.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it bent. And instead of hiding it, he didn't realize that, so he held it up like he always did.
Right.
And then instead of not focusing on it, they just got a shot of it and held it for long enough for everyone at home to go, that's clearly not made of wood. And then,
But Matt, you're saying it was just
a
straight up foam one once?
It might have even been like the toy one, but like, and they just hoped that nobody would notice.
Amazing.
But
now, neither of these guys does anything more complicated than a clothesline.
Right.
And it's funny because Barbarian could actually work pretty well. And Barbarian looks like $1 million. Like the guy looks like he could be like a toy, that like a He-Man action. Like he is amazing looking.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't have to do much,
Yeah.
He just does some throat thrusts and overhead clobbers, and
he used to have that move where I think he'd go to the second turnbuckle on the inside and he would step on the ropes and then drop an elbow, almost like an old school, but like not as balanced.
Yeah. I remember liking that. And he also had the flying headbutt.
Yeah.
So he could do some stuff.
This match is just slow. Like hit, and then just the end. Hacksaw wins with a clothesline. It's not even the stance. He just
he gets whipped to the buckle, and he comes out from hitting the buckle,
right,
and clotheslines.
And Barbarian doesn't even like bump like it's this horrible clothesline. He just kind of like hits the mat, and that's that.
Barbarian is one of those guys. Like I'm a fan of Barbarian. I like Barbarian, but he's one of those guys that doesn't bend at the waist. So he can't take proper bumps. He just kind of falls over like a rubber action figure. And it's okay. That's what you expect of him. He's very good at that.
Sometimes I think, like, fuck, it must have been so easy to be a pro wrestler in the 80s and early 90s.
It was. You just had to be big.
You had to be big.
You had to fail at playing football, and then you had to do coke and steroids.
That's pretty much it.
And had to be willing to
Oh, man.
travel a lot and have Mr. Fuji like serve you a cat head once in a while or something. Now,
hold on a second. This is. I'm gonna cut this. This is Dot Podcast. They just announced, because I'm online, that they're gonna do Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens at WrestleMania.
Wow.
And the
Finally.
tweet is, it was inevitable that at one point we'd see Sami Zayn versus Owens fight at WrestleMania.
that's got to be match of the night, right?
Yeah, good for them.
They also just announced one-on-one Seth Rollins versus Cesaro. It's going to be Cesaro's first singles match at WrestleMania.
That's got to be match of the night, right?
No, those are both should on paper should be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Of course, you also I think are going to get Daniel Bryan in the title match with Reigns
Probably,
and Edge.
yeah. It's
So
going to be the spike that needs.
that should be awesome. And Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. You know.
It's going to be WrestleMania.
Yeah,
2
you can
nights, all
keep
that.
it in. You know, we don't get a lot of time to like talk about current stuff anymore because we don't do the minisodes.
That's true. That's true. We'll see.
Maybe we'll
see how long
maybe we'll have like a
go.
little watch party or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
You know,
Anyway,
I got. I am now vaccinated.
I got my first one. How about you, Ben?
Excellent.
I have nothing yet.
Okay.
I have an appointment for April 24th. I'm
Okay.
trying to get one earlier than that.
Well, I won't be scared of you because I'm vaccinated.
There you go.
We'll talk later.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, back to Madison Square Garden in 1991.
Yes.
I figured that was important enough
Yeah.
news.
Absolutely.
Did you guys catch? Heenan is complaining about the previous match, the Hogan Flair match, and he says that Flair was jobbed.
Yes, I heard that.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Flair was jobbed by those WWF officials.
He would do that once in a while, Heenan. He would drop like an industry term, like in the era
but
of
in
kayfabe.
the wrong context,
I mean,
or like a not quite off, like not exactly
not
on
quite
the
off.
right contest.
but you know, like he would say things like when they did the Santa Claus thing on primetime, like a couple years before that, and he told the kids they'd been swerved.
Yeah, I mean, well, swerved, like, at least that's descriptive.
Yeah, but he'll do it again later in this show, and I wrote down that one as well.
Okay, awesome. So we get the Bret Hart versus the Mountie Intercontinental title match. Shortly before the Mountie actually beat Bret for the title at the Royal Rumble.
Yep. My question is, who did the Mountie defeat to get an Intercontinental title match? Like they remind us that he lost at SummerSlam against the Big Boss Man.
Against the Big Boss Man when Bret won the title from Mr. Perfect. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if I ever saw the Mountie win a match other than beating Bret for the title.
against
You
jobbers.
never needed to.
Yeah.
Right, besides job matches. Yeah.
So the Mountie, by the way, at some point in this match, he does. I've never seen this before, and I don't think I've ever seen it since. He does a hammerlock with one arm,
With the half
and,
Nelson.
and a half Nelson with the other, and then brings him to the corner and hits his head on the turnbuckle.
Awesome.
Right?
So
Amazing.
fucking cool. I've come to really love Jacques Rougeau. We watched an earlier Rougeau brothers match a couple weeks ago, and yeah, he's just a fantastic worker. His facial expressions, the way he gets heat, just like he can do so little.
I've got
yet,
something
you know,
amazing to tell you. Jacques Rougeau has a pinfall victory over Hulk Hogan.
Oh, we know.
That
In
he
Canada,
does.
yeah, we
Okay.
talked
That
about
he
that. We
does.
talked about that, and like, you know, I sort of speculated on like the psychology behind giving him that, and like part of it for me is like the wrestling world, American wrestling, owed a great debt to Canada. For like all the great Canadian talent that had been sent to America, where they found glory in America, but did or in the U.S. But did there have been very little like great triumphant moments in Canada besides like Bret Hart winning the title. But they didn't have a lot of that, and then of course they had a lot of really fucked up shit like the Montreal Screwjob. So I think like Hogan realized that and wanted to just like give Montreal and give Canada a little something back for for everything. But hey,
Oh, maybe, but it's a great story. It's an interesting like kind of thing. It showed the power that Hogan had, because you know he didn't have to do that. You know that match didn't have to happen. Jacques Rougeau was really not a big deal at all in WCW at that point. He was tagging with Pierre. They essentially, they were essentially a bottom tier tag team that I'm sure were getting paid more than they were drawing, and good for them. But yeah, and so Hogan probably just said, "Look, this ain't being on television." Jacques, he probably liked him,
You
He
notice
wanted to do a favor.
You notice they kind of gave Mountie the Goldberg entrance for this.
Yeah.
They had the camera on him backstage before he came out.
He had guards.
Yeah. I don't know. I love the fucking Mountie too. You know about why they became the Quebecers, right?
Yeah, because like
Yeah.
Canada sued them or something like that.
Yeah.
Said you couldn't portray Mounties that way. So this match, Bret Hart's in it, so it's a great match. But
Right.
What the fuck was that ending?
Yeah. So the beginning, the boss man takes the shock stick,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. Bret wins with the second rope elbow.
Right. Like
That's the only time I have ever seen him win a match with that move.
that was bizarre.
Very strange. Yeah, he does it in every single one of his matches, but that is the first time he actually got a victory with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it speaks to your point, Matt, or your question about how the fucking Mountie got an Intercontinental title shot to begin with, because they were treating him like a C-list, D-list heel,
Right.
That Bret didn't even need to hit him with his, real finisher in order to beat him.
Right. And yet there he is. I also
Getting multiple Intercontinental title
Yeah, and I love this era of Bret though, because this is when he would do the playing possum thing, which was like almost like a believable Hulk up. Like it isn't like a supernatural thing. It's like, oh, well, he's faking being hurt, and he's actually not only is he okay, but he's ready to like unload on you.
I wonder if that was part of his thought process about it. Like
he needs his own like fire up, but like.
And he was always concerned to like make his matches more realistic than your average wrestling match. So that I think there's something there for
he
sure.
knew how to put a match together that wasn't, I never liked the whole like, oh, Bret does the same 5 moves thing, because no, he didn't. He had his comeback, which was the same 5 moves. Then other than that, he had different matches almost every night.
Bret was fucking great.
Yeah, and most people can't really say that.
They
could, but they'd be lying.
I would love if Bret got into a role kind of like Pat Patterson, where he can agent a match and come up with like an awesome ending.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, they need that.
Yeah.
His biggest problem is that the awesome ending he'd come up with is that he wins.
That's fine.
He was the best. He's supposed to.
He is best there is, best there was, best there ever will be.
That's right.
He's Captain Crunch.
Yes.
he put it
You remember that from the match with Jean-Pierre Lafitte? Matt, interesting enough, but not by any design. We have now, within the last like 4 or 5 weeks for the premium episodes, seen Bret wrestle Jacques twice and Pierre once.
Okay.
Yeah, how about that? Well, they're all Canadian.
Yeah, I was going to say that keeping it in the country, yeah.
Huh. And Bret always loved to work Jacques, as he pointed out in one of his shoot interviews. He was like, it was like a night off in the best way.
Yeah.
Jacques knew how to get heat. He never wanted you to do anything stupid or dangerous. He knew what he was doing.
Did Kevin Owens go to Jacques' wrestling school?
Yes.
Okay.
He has nothing good to say about him.
Oh. I guess I'm not surprised.
It was one of those things where, like, Jacques doesn't want any of his students ever to wrestle until Jacques tells them where and how to wrestle, and then Jacques wants to take a percentage of their money, and, like, Kevin Owens was too smart to actually do that, and he eventually just broke off and did whatever he wanted, and Jacques was pissed, and because that's how the grift continues, is that they act like they own you, and they don't. They don't.
Right. Wrestling.
Oh, yes, wrestling.
So
Bret wins.
Bret wins, as he
yes,
should.
Of course he does.
Always.
Always, right.
And we move on to the Big Boss Man against Erwin R. Shyster. And yeah, as much as I love Bret, and the Bret Mountie match, like not all that much happened in it. The Bossman IRS match is fucking hot right from the start.
It is, yes.
Ray Traylor was in. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I feel like it went on a tad too long, but it was still a good match.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe a little, yeah.
Ray Traylor was in awesome shape at this point.
Yeah, he was
Ray
really...
Traylor was like, every time I see him, I'm shocked at how well he can move. And that's significant because I've seen him a lot. You know, I should expect how good he is, but I don't. And then he's amazing every time.
Yeah, no, he was great. He was so over, too, and he was one of those baby faces that, like, there was always, like, a baby face on the roster that was never the champion, but they also seemed to never lose. Mm-hmm. And, like Razor Ramon was almost like the next incarnation of that, like, once Bossman was gone. And they always kind of just seemed like there was that one baby. And then Undertaker, of course, was kind of like that.
Interesting. I saw Razor versus Bossman at the very first house show I ever went to in '93, which was right before Bossman left.
Right. So that's when you started seeing Bossman lose. Like, he lost to Bam Bam at Royal Rumble in '93. Like, yeah. But if you just look at the Bossman, other than this match, of course, like, generally the Bossman pretty much won any feud he had against a heel.
Yep, he certainly beat Nails.
He beat Bobby Heenan's whole family, and then he beat Mr. Perfect by disqualification and didn't win the Intercontinental title.
He beat the Mountie.
And that's fine, because they didn't want him to job the Intercontinental title to anybody, right. So that's how that works.
He beat Nails. Like, they literally brought Nails in to feud with him, and he just beat Nails.
I guess Duggan was kind of like that, too. He didn't lose a lot.
Duggan was more vulnerable because he had, like, the dumb... So sometimes he'd the dumb his way into a count out or something.
True. Or he'd get disqualified. He'd get fed up and go for the 2x4.
Yeah,
and get disqualified. But yeah, they do a lot of cool spots, like just in and out of the ring. Bossman sliding out and getting one up on IRS, like really fast paced, faster than you'd expect for the time period.
Action.
Having some words with Heenan in between moves sometimes, just for the hell of it, just for the continuity.
Speaking of good chemistry with Heenan.
Yeah.
Speaking of Heenan talking about how he only paid $286 in taxes, and he's like, "Yeah, it turns out you can declare corrective hose for your aunt."
That's the first thing that came to Bobby's mind, I'm sure.
Oh, that's such a weird fucking, like, I don't know, postmodern kind of comment to make.
Yeah.
Postmodern is an interesting way to put that. Yeah.
Like, in terms of postmodern literature, like weird stream of consciousness kind of like almost Freudian expression of the unconscious.
Yeah.
I wonder what Heenan's intentions were, like what he was trying to portray.
I don't know.
You know, sometimes Heenan was on, and then sometimes you'd hear him say something, and you'd be like, all right, he's Heenan. I'll let him have it.
By the way, did you notice during the Brett Mountie match, Vince asks Alfred if he's awake at one point? It's like the match is kind of slow. He's like, hey, Alfred. I guess Alfred hadn't said anything in a while. And he's like, come on, like, we need you to fill the space here.
Yeah, Alfred was never one to fill the space. He said stuff when he had points and at no other time.
There was some point, I forget when, they're talking about something, and they start ribbing Alfred about, like, something about, like, somebody in a skirt and batteries not included. And you're like, what are they talking about right now? It was like, there's clearly some inside jokes here that we're not getting.
Oh man, I have no idea. Back to the Bossman IRS match. I love, like, Bossman IRS getting the advantage because Bossman has to move the ref out of the way.
Yeah.
He just picked him up
and I liked Bossman actually, like, grabbed him by the tie and the suspenders.
Yes,
that was something for some reason, and like, they would always mention it in commentary, because especially at that time when Piper was on commentary with Gorilla, and they'd say, I don't understand, you've been in that ring just like I have, why doesn't anybody grab him by the tie and knock him out? But like, nobody actually seemed to do it. So in this match, Bossman's actually doing it.
Yeah, I think Razor Ramon eventually figured it out and started doing it too. But you're right, very few people.
Yeah, figured out he has a tie on that one can just grab.
Well, you know, these guys weren't too smart.
No.
These wrestlers.
He got hit in the head a lot.
Yeah, definitely. So the Mountie distracts the boss man. IRS hits him with the fucking briefcase and gets the win.
Right, speaking about Boss Man never losing, he does a great sell where he looks up for a second and then his legs buckle and he just crumples like a guy that was just knocked out.
Yeah, so that was
realistic.
That was a big win for IRS.
It was. It very much was.
I think what helped this match so much was just the backstory that, like, Boss Man just, again, always just seemed to win. He was a force to be reckoned with. And IRS was on that upswing. He had only been in the company at that point for a few months, I think.
Not very long at all.
Yeah, I think he debuted after WrestleMania 7.
Okay.
So we're like maybe 6-7 months into this run.
Rotunda's such a great wrestler.
Yeah.
Just at little things like his elbow drops are so freaking crisp.
Yeah, he's very technically sound. He was not the most charismatic fellow.
But like, how great was the character? Like,
oh, brilliant!
Oh yeah, no, it was perfect for him.
Yeah, everyone hates
came out. He said his one line. Your text sheets.
He didn't even have music. His entrance was berating the audience.
After a while,
that would get heat because he didn't talk good.
After a while, he had like the noise of like the.
I don't remember that. They had that in video games, but I never remember hearing that in any actual wrestling match.
You know, you might be right. Like maybe that, I think I only heard it in the video game too.
Okay.
Now that I think about it. Huh. Yeah, because he would come out cutting a promo usually on Superstars or whatever.
And he'd be like, we're in Milwaukee and you tax cheats are all blah, blah, blah. And probably because you're all drunk.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So finally, we get our actual main event, as in the last match of the night, which is like, deserves to be a main event, I suppose.
Yeah.
The Rockers versus the Nasty Boys, only about a month before the breakup of the Rockers. And Vince points out there were rumored problems between them. WWF Magazine had done a feature on it.
This is one of these gaping wounds in my life that will never heal. I used to have every WWF magazine from February 91 to like August 93. I just had this collection of all of them, and they got stolen out of my house at some point. And this is one of those situations where I would have just, like, in prep for this show, would have opened up that magazine and found the article and reported on it.
Damn. I don't know if there had been any incidents in ring yet at this point between Sean and Marty. I'm guessing there probably would have been, because like I wouldn't expect them to do that fresh on a house show the way they did. But yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, that would be cool to have.
Yeah.
For reference. Gotta point out the woman with the awesome Nasty Boys Cabbage Patch
Kids. Yeah.
Dolls. Yeah. Pretty great.
Oh, the Nasty Boys from Allentown, Pennsylvania. Well,
yeah, they weren't from Nastyville yet.
No. They were from Allentown.
They were built. I remember them being built from Philly.
I remember that at some point
Allentown's outside of Philly.
Yeah, I mean, because I remember I
think in WCW they were built from Philly.
Because I feel like in one of the WWF magazines they had a spread about them versus the Legion of Doom, and they billed it as like Philly versus Chicago.
Right. That sounds about right. Well, the Nasty still really knew what they were doing here. They were professional heels.
Oh man, they got so much heat with that crowd.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And of course, Sean and Marty were right there with them to garner the heat as well. It was a very, that's the best way I can describe it. All these guys knew what they were doing. It wasn't like a great match, but they all knew what they were doing.
Marty was still good. Marty was still on point. He does that great double clothesline jumping over Shawn Michaels' head from the top rope.
Well, up until the very end, they were still very much the Rockers.
Yeah, and did you guys? This is the other commentary I caught that they're talking about. I think Michaels was in the ring, and they're talking about what a great partner Marty Jannetty is, and I think Vince says he's like saying all the things he does, and he says, and you'll hear Marty Jannetty calling spots.
Right.
Oh, I missed that.
He did
That's
say
awesome.
That. And I mean, you can. It wasn't like kayfabe breaking. It's like you can
Right.
hear him saying stuff to Sean from the corner, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's what
Calling
that's
spots.
probably what it meant, but it's a weird phrase to just use on air like that.
That's amazing. So there's one really weird moment though. Marty takes a back body drop and tries to flip all the way onto his feet, but he
Yeah.
kind of stumbles. And then he very quickly grabs for a small package, but really looks like he's low blowing
him, yeah.
the
Yeah.
nasty.
It was a good save though.
Or not a small package, a schoolboy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fine. But yeah, I just thought
And
that
being
was funny.
that kind of agility was seldom seen in WWF at that time. It wasn't like you could even detect that was a botch.
Yeah, the crowd would pop to the attempt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, of course.
This was
Fans have
before the
changed
"you
a
fucked
lot.
up" chant.
Yeah.
Yeah, fans have changed a lot. Like,
didn't have that
it was
vernacular
a lot
yet.
more accepted that if a guy made a mistake, it would seem as though like the athlete you were watching made a mistake in trying to do something. Like if you ever watch a football game and the quarterback throws the ball and the guy trying to catch the ball doesn't catch the ball. Yeah, like that, but
Yeah,
in
right.
wrestling. It should happen all the time, actually. But no, if everything isn't just crisp, you get hatred.
So
And I
Marty
don't like that.
Marty gets the hot tag, and it's a great hot tag killer. They do it perfectly with the Nasties tagging first, and then Marty tagging, coming in, House of Fire, all that stuff. Eventually, he gets a small package, I think on knobs. I don't remember. On
One of the nasty boys. It's okay.
Yeah.
I can't quite
and
remember.
One of
they're-
the nasty boys.
So they keep like distracting the ref will be distracted, and the Nasties will turn the small package over, so the Nasty is on top. But then Sean comes in the ring when the ref's distracted. Marty is able to reverse the small package himself, so he's on top. And then Sean sort of like
Reverses it.
yeah, he absent-mindedly, seemingly accidentally, reverses it, just like he's not being observant about who's actually on top, and
Yeah.
it assumes that it's actually the Nasty on top, but really he's reversing it to having Marty's shoulders on the mat, and the Nasties win.
Yeah.
But it's hard to
Sean
say.
sells it really well when he like turns his back, comes out of the ring, and then comes back into the ring.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
timing
yeah.
on it is just like Shawn Michaels perfect.
So he's acting like, oh shit, I didn't mean to do that. But you already see like some of the arrogance in his face. Like he's already looking very heelish at the end of this match.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, later on, like, oh, did he really do it on purpose or what?
But I do think there was some like deny like because it kind of seemed like Jannetty was the aggressor. Like not that he didn't have a right to be, but it seemed like if one of them was going to turn at that moment, you'd almost expect it to be Jannetty would like slap him and be like, "What's the matter with you?" And like,
Right. I think maybe the way to read it is like Sean was already thinking that maybe he was over this. And then he's like, oh, and now the guy's going to come at me for something that was actually an accident that I didn't mean to do.
Right.
Fuck him.
It was just done very well. It was done, slowly but not too slowly. And it was still shocking when it happened.
I love the way Heenan sells it where it's like, but I wonder. Like,
Yeah.
Vince
Right.
is like, oh, it was obviously an accident. But I wonder.
I wonder. Heenan
Good
was
stuff.
right, as it turns out.
Yes. He usually is. He was right about Hulk Hogan.
You're right.
all those years.
Whose side is he on? If it was anybody but Heenan, that would have been a botch. But no, Heenan. That made perfect sense.
Whose side is he on?
Side of the WWF, of course.
Yeah.
All right, well, I found this house show very fun.
Yeah.
And I think it was a nice send off for the WWE Network, for this iteration of the WWE
For
Network.
the time
me to
being,
watch
yes.
this- to watch this show.
It's interesting because there wasn't like a 5-star match on the show or anything, but I still really enjoyed the hell out of all of it. There wasn't anything on it that I thought like I didn't want to see when it came on.
I'd say Hacksaw Barbarian was not that fun.
Yeah, but I like those guys, so I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I too kind of like those guys, so like I was kind of okay with.
Right.
I mean, if that match were maybe like because it wasn't a long match, but if it were just a little bit shorter, we just kind of got like almost like a photo op of just seeing these guys in the ring, take a few pictures for the magazine, and then like we're out. Like that would be a better function of that match than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, and had like maybe that minute taken off of that match given to Hogan Flair, maybe.
Right.
Maybe even at the very least have Hogan, like, after the decision is reversed, like Perfect and Flair try to jump him, and then Hogan gets to do his comeback on them or something.
He does
like
the double noggin knocker.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, that might have been cool. Oh, well. But, yeah, a fun show. Matt, anything else to say about it before we go off the air?
I don't think so. No, I think we've said all that needs to be said.
I think so.
If I had paid for this event, I would be very unhappy. But we watched it 30 years later on the network. By the way, I don't know about you guys, but my network experience, man, I know they're transitioning to Peacock and they're trying to get customers to do the same. But the video kept stopping on me. I would get a message saying like, "There's an error. Please try again." Like,
You know, I got that a bit too.
and then
I don't know if it's related, but I did.
once in a blue moon, a message would pop up and say you've been signed out, and I would have to sign back in and go back into that.
Oh, wow. That didn't happen to me. That has happened to me with the network in the past,
Yes,
but not this time.
It seemed-
It's always been shitty.
it always has been, but it seemed more aggressive this time around.
That makes sense. I'm going to try in the next week or so to like watch some of the things that probably won't be back on there again. I started watching the Best of Daniel Bryan and WXW that they have there.
Oh wow!
Under
Wow, really?
Independence. Yeah. Good shit there. He's such a fucking heel in Germany.
I'm sure.
They hate his guts.
Yeah.
They love Chris Hero. And there's a match. They call Chris Hero the best in the world.
Oh wow!
And there's a nice long match between the two of them on there.
I mean, in Germany, he's got some really, really like historic heels.
Yeah. And there's the match between him and an extremely young Zack Sabre Jr.
I'm sure he's not quite the wizard he would become. He was so skinny when young Zack Sabre Jr.
He's still pretty
you know?
skinny.
He's still pretty
He's still
damn
pretty
skinny.
Yes, he's very good.
Yeah.
You watch any of the New Japan Cup, Matt?
I haven't seen it yet. No.
The Sabre Osprey match is pretty great.
Maybe I'll peep that this weekend.
Everything Kenta
There's
does.
so many wrestling
Toriano
streaming
winning?
services.
I know. It's weird. Like, I watch less wrestling than ever at this point, though. Even with, like, you know, I pretty much only watch the pay-per-views for WWE.
I mean, I'm kind of the same way just because, I mean, I watch AEW. Well, I watch AEW and NXT, like, back and forth. So, like, 1 week I watch NXT, 1 week I watch AEW.
Gotcha.
That's my way to be, like, objective and non-discriminant.
Right. I look at the reviews, and like for 411 they'll give it a number. So if it's like 8.5 or above or a 9, I'll be like, all right, I should probably check out this show, and I'll just watch it that week. But, you know, I don't really have a weekly wrestling habit anymore. I watch the stuff for this show.
I'm guessing you saw the Thunder Rosa Britt Baker match.
I haven't yet. I want
Okay.
to. I've
So
been
it's see
meaning
that
to.
I haven't.
It's funny. About 5 days prior to that, PWA in Australia had Charlie Evans and Jessica Troy had a no disqualification match, and very similar in a lot. They even busted out the thumbtacks, and I was watching this match and I'm saying, "Wow, this is a really fun match." And then 5 days later, AEW has a hardcore match, and I was like, "Man, like, kind of stole their thunder a little bit," but okay.
I mean, AEW really doesn't have a lot of like truly original ideas.
Yeah,
when it comes down to it.
It just was like, and I just one of those things. I know I would come off as the indie snob, and I was like, "Yeah, I know you guys like that match, but PWA in Australia has," and you know, like that. I'm that guy, but it's on YouTube for free if anyone wants to check it out. It's PWA Charlie Evans versus Jessica Troy, and it's about 20-minute video. Really, really fun match.
Cool.
Jessica Troy pinned me in Chikara once.
I think I was there for that.
Yeah, it was at the Infinite Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember
Emerson
that.
Defarge threw her at me.
It's,
Yeah.
It's funny. I took pictures of her at that event, and she ended up following me on Instagram and posting the pictures, and we
Hey.
developed a little bit of a rapport from that. And then I met her at the world famous Berwyn Eagles in Chicago for Shimmer a couple months later, and I'm like, I'm that guy.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's nice.
Yeah, she's amazing. All the Aussie wrestlers are friggin' amazing.
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, well, I suppose
I can't wait till wrestling actually comes back.
I can't wait till wrestling. Can we all go to Chicago for a Shimmer weekend finally?
Yeah.
Make that a reality?
Fuck yeah. Definitely. I'm supposed to go to Chicago to see Rammstein this summer if like that's like a safe possibility.
Yeah.
I saw Rammstein 20 years ago.
Yeah, I saw them 10 and 20 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one to be here.
All right, so
All right, Matt. Yeah. Well, go ahead, Doc. Wrap us up.
No, I was gonna wrap it up. I do believe it's time to throw it in for the week. Yeah, Matt. Thanks very much for coming on to the show. With the second time we had a regular episode with you over a year ago by now, I believe.
I have some plans to bring Matt on for more regular and or premium episodes.
Cool. Yeah. Do you have anything to plug right now, Matt?
No, nothing has happened in the last year, and I have literally nothing to plug.
That's okay. You can plug this show.
Yeah.
Because
Do they
you're
still
on it now.
Contesting
Naughty
wrestling.
Noir have anything going on?
Actually, okay, there you go. All right, thank you for that layup there.
Yeah, no problem.
So one of my good friends in the burlesque industry, Puss in Boots, is co-owner of a show called Naughty Noir, and as of the pandemic taking over the world last year, they made the show digital, and for just $10, they do a show once a month. You could watch this show digitally. It's usually about an hour or more, and just amazing. And it's fun. It's fun to watch how they've embraced the digital medium now. Like knowing that it's not a live performance. Like the first few of them were just like set up camera, dance in front of the camera. Then they started doing angles. Then they started doing narratives, and now it's all fancy and there's effects.
Interesting.
And there's
I gotta see that.
It's almost like it almost feels like music videos in the '90s that like a rock band would make.
That sounds awesome. I'm down. I'm looking at their calendar right now, which I bought. The 2021 calendar.
Oh, you got one. Awesome.
Which has your birthday listed on it.
Yep.
Hey, cool.
It's pretty cool.
But if you get this, the show comes out the second Thursday of every month, and if you buy the show online before 10 p.m. Eastern time, they do a Zoom party where you can watch the show and interact with most of the performers and other fans of the show.
Oh, cool. Where do we find that?
That's puss.nyc is where you could find that.
That's it, puss.nyc. Okay,
Puss.nyc,
cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Excellent. And you may be there in the audience that one can interact with.
I'll be there.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thanks again, Matt. This has been Contesting Wrestling Premium. Thank you, premium subscribers, for your patronage. We love you.
Viewers like you.
That's right. You brother. All right.
Peace.